The Brain Drain.
Welcome to The Brain Drain, the show which has searched far and wide to find the foremost brilliant thinkers of today. So far without success. But never mind, let's meet our panel this week who are going to introduce themselves and tell us a secret they'd like to share. Tony.
Hello, yes, my name's Tony Hawks, and the secret I'd like to share is that the key to my back door is under the stone just to the left of the chamber.
Hello, I'm Sandi Toksvig. Actually, that's not true. I should reveal to you that I am, in fact, Lord Lucan.
Alistair.
Hello, I'm Spitting Images, Alistair McGowan, and my secret is that I'm the illegitimate love child of Joe Brand and Tony Hawks, in fact.
Hello, I'm Jo Brand, and the secret I'd like to share is that when I was a little girl, I used to eavesdrop on my mother and her friends and hear my mother's friends saying to her about me, but she's got a lovely personality, Joyce.
Ladies and gentlemen, the panel. Now, our first question tonight comes from our audience, from Mr. Richard Mills. Hello, Richard. What's your question for tonight's panel?
David Mellor was recently awarded the title of clumsiest communicator by a PR company. Who would have got the panel's vote?
Right, Tony, who would you have given the vote to clumsiest communicator?
Well, I thought he communicated with that actress girl, all right, didn't he? A fairly good job there, I thought. This is actually quite a difficult question to answer, because obviously the clumsiest communicator would be someone that we'd never heard of. That's all I've got to say on this subject.
Yeah, OK, fine. Thankfully. Sandy.
There's a famous one. Unfortunately, I don't know who it was, but some time ago, Fanny Craddock, you may remember, was a little bit of a chef, and she was on television, she was making donuts, and she just finished. And this is actually a true story, and they cut back to the news presenter, and he wasn't quite ready. And he looked up at the camera and he said, "Oh, and here's hoping all your donuts turn out like Fanny's."
Jo.
Unfortunately.
Well, I think possibly the translator at the peace talks for the ex-Yugoslavia, who's translating from the English, I think he's probably fairly clumsy, because he's saying that the English are saying, we'll do all we can to support you, we'll help the Muslims, but in fact he's getting it wrong, because what they're actually saying is, no oil, piss off, we don't give a monkeys. And Jonathan Aitken, who's an MP, I would name as a clumsy communicator, because I saw him on Question Time, and they were asking about whether they should send ground troops into Bosnia, to Sarajevo, and he said, actually, I know the answer to this, because I've been in Sarajevo skiing, actually. And he did, it was brilliant. And I thought, well, is that how Chris Patton got Hong Kong? Because he had some sweet and sour pork balls 10 years ago. Obviously how they do it.
Alistair.
A couple of candidates. Ian McCaskill, possibly, because I don't know if you noticed, but now Ian McCaskill has become more and more inaudible, slurs his words and things, and misses out phrases. You listen to him and you hear him, it's like, hello, temperatures, course, going up towards about 5 degrees, Harrogate, course, the same thing, so they offer me good night. That's all you hear. I can't hear a word he's saying. Graham Taylor, he'd be another one as well, Graham Taylor, because when England play and he's interviewed afterwards, he just makes no sense. Whatever he says makes absolutely no sense. After the American game, Des Lynam says to him, you know, so you've lost 2-0 there. Graham, what are your thoughts? Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. Now, I was on that wall today. I was Humpty Dumpty. I fell off. The king's horses and the king's men, they couldn't put me back together again. If they could, they would, but they couldn't and they didn't. Do you see? Do you see? Do you? Frankly, no, Graham, we don't.
All right, thank you very much, panel. Thank you for your question. Right. Now we're going over to David Revel, who's in our audience, I hope. David, what's your question for tonight's panel?
This week, the English Tourist Board urged hoteliers to provide a more welcoming atmosphere for tourists.
Have the panel ever had any bad experiences staying in hotels?
Right, OK. Have you had any bad experiences staying in hotels? Anybody?
Well, I had a slightly strange thing. This is absolutely true. This happened yesterday, funnily enough. I was in Blackburn, where I'd never been before, in Lancashire, and the woman said to me, would you like a paper in the morning? And I said, oh, if I can, I'd like the Guardian. She said, oh, no. And that was the end of it. She didn't say, oh, no, we don't do the Guardian, or, oh, no, I don't think you should read that. She just said, oh, no. And indeed, I didn't get a Guardian, and it was very... I don't know why that is.
You're in the twilight zone, maybe?
I was, I think so. Yes, it's very strange.
Jo, you ever stayed in any dodgy digs?
Well, I was at work. I went on tour earlier in the year, and I was working up in the northeast, and I had a lovely gig. Got a bit drunk, picked up this bloke, went back to the hotel, shagging on the lawn. Bloody hotel slides down a cliff. I couldn't believe it.
So the earth moved for you.
All right, anybody else got any?
Well, this didn't actually happen to me. It happened to a friend of mine who went to stay in a guest house, and he went out and got very, very drunk as well. And he got up in the middle of the night, and they had this nice dog in this guest house, and he got up in the middle of the night to go to the toilet, went the wrong way and fell down the stairs, but landed on the dog that was at the bottom of the stairs and killed the dog. And he sort of, he didn't know how to, whether he should confront them the next day with this, or, oh, I'm sorry, but I killed your dog. So he didn't, and he just lay it out neatly out off the floor and went back to sleep. I don't know what happened after.
Anybody else got any horror stories from the English Tourist Board's consumption?
I've not got a horror story, but I always feel when I stay in a hotel that I have to get my money's worth. If you do that, you get into a posh hotel and you think, I've got to use everything in the room. And you walk in and you put the television on straight away, watch every channel for at least 20 minutes. Put your trousers in the Corby trouser press. While you're wearing them, it doesn't bother me. Have everything off that little courtesy tray, you know, the cartons of UHT milk, the little chocolate bourbon biscuits, you know. Last thing at night, I'll have a shower. First thing in the morning, have a bath, you know. And what you should do, I'll just tell you this, what you should do, if it's a twin-bedded room, sleep in one bed for half the night, set the alarm clock, sleep in the other. You make sure you get your money's worth.
Right, well, thank you very much for those answers, and thank you, David, for your question. Right, now, for a change of scene, it's time for our photo round. I'm going to show you a photograph. Here it is. What's going on, Tony and Sandy?
The man on the left here, who's pointing, he's saying, and this has taken 5 of you all morning. Or he might be saying, the beauty of the fish world is that it isn't rude to point.
You could be saying to the fish, if you don't lie down, you'll get a slap round the face with a wet chef.
I think he's saying, this one's black, so it's got to be deported.
Any further thoughts?
This one was the one swimming at Blackpool, perhaps?
All right, moving on. Here's the next one up. Try this one out, Alistair and Jo.
I think this is Azerbaijani TV presents Batman and Robin.
I think the one on the right is saying, it's amazing what you have to do to get into Planet Hollywood.
Or it's a new comedy double act, Cannon and Balls. Or he's saying to him, oh, were you meeting Fergie here as well, then?
I think the one on the right's saying, all right, but I still reckon I've got the best personality.
The one on the left could be saying, you never said it was formal.
The one on the right could be saying, so that's where my eye patch went. Or, good drugs, Mr. Bradford. Thank you, Mr. Bingley.
Thank you very much. Very good answers, panel. Right, now it's time for our celebrity question, and we are fortunate to have with us in the studio a woman who threw a javelin 75 yards across Barcelona Stadium, which is pretty amazing, as they were playing football at the time. Will you please welcome Tessa Sanderson? Thanks for coming in, Tessa. And what's your question?
Obviously, I believe that keeping fit is extremely important. Do the panel think exercise is a good thing?
We'll take a look at them. Alistair, is exercise a good thing?
Well, no disrespect to Tessa, but when you look at some of the sportsmen who are keeping fit, you've got to wonder, haven't you? You've got to ask yourself questions. I mean, you watch Question of Sport and see Bill Beaumont sitting there and... Hardly a good advert for sport, really, is he, old Bill? Or, no, well, Chris Akabusi, see? Look at Chris Akabusi. I mean, great runner, nice bloke, but he's only got 5 words in his vocabulary when I've seen him interviewed. It's yes, no, I'm, but, and really, and that's it. No, really, I'm, but, no, I'm... No, really, I'm...
Sandy?
Well, obviously, Joe and I are in the Gazelles in Motion Club. We're...
Well, you're in the Gazelles in Motion, I'm in the Gazzers in Motion.
No, I think the trick is to put in as little effort as possible, and what I tend to do is I put a very heavy load in the washing machine and then I strap myself to it. It doesn't exercise you at all, but you feel terrific.
Tony?
Put it on a spin cycle.
Well, I think fitness is important. Obviously, it's to keep trim and light like me. Hey? I think these marathons are ridiculous that people go on. You'd never get me doing a 26-mile marathon. I'm always amused by these people that have dressed up as rabbits or bears or something. Because after about a mile and a half, you know, they must really regret doing that, mustn't they? Oh, God, I only got one laugh and I've got 24.5 miles to go. And the other thing I don't think is acceptable as a way of exercise, I mean, I think walking's good, but the way they do it in the Olympics, I think that's ridiculous, because that's not walking, is it? That's nearly running. What's the point of nearly running? If someone's coming up behind you with a red-hot poker, you don't nearly run away from it. You run like Billio away from it. So I think we should introduce for these people a special event, you know, for them to do instead of that, which is nearly swimming. That'd be but,
Joe, any tips for keeping fit?
Well, actually, I was a bit of an aspiring javelin thrower myself when I was at secondary school, but sadly, I was on sports day having a sneaky fag in the toilets, and a box of Swan Vesta blew up in my hand. And so I had to throw the javelin with my left hand, and it went about 2 foot. So that messed me up completely. But I like to keep fit, as I'm sure you can tell. I like to sit up in bed and have a cigarette instead of lying down these days.
Any other tips from anybody?
Well, I think it's important to just keep walking, you know, like walk to the kitchen and get a cheesecake. That's always...
Well, you know that there is that thing they say, if you were to run 10 miles, say, in the morning and then 10 miles in the evening every day, at the end of the week you'd be about 140 miles from home.
Well, thank you very much for those tips, and thank you for your question, Tessa Sanderson. Good. Now, a question from our audience. Is there a Kerry Thomas here tonight? Hello, Kerry. What's your question for tonight's panel?
The BBC and ITV have recently revamped their news programmes. What changes would the panel have made?
All right, what changes would you make to the BBC and ITV news? This report from Tony Hawks.
Well, I think the reporters are rather too formal where they are. They're formal. Formal. I've exchanged the M in that word and he replaced it with a B for no reason. Oh, right. No, I think they're rather too formal. I mean, all around the world you see is reported in very hot climates and they're there reporting jacket and tie. Let's see them in swimming trunks, I say. That's what let's see them looking sexy on the news.
Even Kate Adie in swimming trunks?
Well, what do you mean even Kate Adie?
Well, she'd have a two-piece, wouldn't she?
But the other thing they could do is, I think, on the news, it would be rather good if they had a live audience in, you know, so we could have sort of reactions from the audience, you know, there's a bit of tough news and they go, ooh. Or some bad news, they go, oh.
Sandy?
I think sometimes, you know, when they come back from the fight into the newsroom and somebody says, Martin Bell there, and I think, obviously, it's rather a serious situation, so she should say, Martin Bell, there. A bit more involved, maybe.
Alistair?
I would get rid of all the newsreaders except Michael Burke. Get Michael Burke to read every news bulletin because he's brilliant. And I just love the way he talks, Michael Burke, because Michael Burke will start off talking more and more loudly. Then he'll go very quiet towards the middle. Until at certain points he's almost completely inaudible. And he'll get louder again and build to what you think is going to be a crescendo. But no. Because he'll fade away again until he ends up by sounding very, very concerned.
I'd like to see newsreaders giving more of their own opinions. So, you know, you'd have a sort of a little film on, and then it would come back, and Moira would go, "Oh, didn't you have a lovely tie on there?" And then Trevor would say, "Oh, that Kenneth Clarke's a bit of a donkey, isn't he?" You know, that sort of thing. And I think the news should be sponsored by Nestle, and that Martin Lewis should read it dressed up as the Milky Bar Kid. And so he'd come on and go, "The news is on me."
All right, thank you very much, panel. I'll send you to your question. Right, now, a question from me. What problems unique to your gender would you like to inflict on the opposite sex? So, Sandy, what is it about being a woman that gets on your nerves?
I'd like to inflict any condition where yoghurt would be a suitable treatment. I think it would be good for men once a month to even have to think about putting something in their pants which has got wings on it.
Thank you for that. Alistair, turning the tables, what would you like to inflict on women?
Premature balding.
Hurrah!
And, I don't know,
Not
what
getting
else?
a girlfriend.
Yes.
All right, Tony.
Well, when you're a man, you sometimes inexplicably get an erection on a coach. A lot of male laughs I hear there. And this isn't a sexual thing, it's just the vibrations or something. I think the word for it is coachman's lob, I believe. And I don't quite know how you inflict that on a woman, really. I suppose it could make her hair stand on end or something. And sometimes another difficulty when you're a man is that you have to make polite conversation to people when you're in the urinals having a pee. You know, it's rather odd. So you're talking to a complete stranger and you both got your willies out. You know? All right, how you doing? Yeah, I'm all right. And then some of them, they come out with these pearls of wisdom, like, oh, all this drinking, you know, it's only rental, isn't it? I think you can't inflict this on ladies, though, unfortunately, because there is no way ladies at the moment can go to the toilet en masse. They haven't invented one, and the only reason I can think ladies is nice. I'm just being polite, you know. All right, you girls, you babes. They haven't come up with it.
It's no wonder you pull all the time, Tony.
Oh, hello. I thought I'd get away with it in this question.
I'm slipping off my chair with moisture here, I tell you.
Carry on, Tony, just
I
ignore
didn't think
that.
I'd get through this question without some flack somehow, really. No, I mean, they haven't come up with a toilet for ladies to go en masse, and the reason is for this must be that to do this properly, you'd have to have one where everyone faced into the room, you know, so it'd just be too embarrassing, because people would come in and there'd be a sea of faces there all going, I haven't finished yet, but it looks like she'll be finished in a minute. It's your best bit down there.
Joe.
Sorry, what was the question?
I don't know, I've forgotten, actually. What problems unique to your gender would you like to inflict on, well, men, I suppose?
Piles. I know they're not unique to our gender, but I'd like all men to have them. Female condoms.
Oh.
Yeah. No, because I'm fed up, because condoms, let's be honest, were actually the last contraceptive that men had to manage on their own, weren't they? It's not fair. Oh, no, we can't manage that. Can you make some for the girls, please? And they did, and it's not fair. Female condoms, like Tesco's carrier bags, if you ask me. And embarrassing to have. I mean, what if one of those falls out of your handbag in the pub? Just off on a ballooning weekend,
Anybody else want to chip in with this? Any problems you want to inflict on the opposite sex?
I think it's a problem men have is it's not socially acceptable for them to get pissed in the pub and sing I Will Survive at the top of their voice.
Thank you very much for those answers, panel. Now we've got a letter from Caroline Rosser from Basingstoke. And Caroline writes, if you could remake a famous film, what part would you play? And who would be your co-stars, Tony?
Yes, I'd quite like to be in a remake of 12 Angry Men, called 11 Rather Sexy Ladies and One Rather Pleased Man. And I saw Jurassic Park as well recently, and in this there's a scene at the end where the dinosaurs trap these two children in a kitchen. and are about to eat them. Well, if I'd like to play the dinosaur in this, and instead of trying to get the children, I'd just knock myself up a quick omelette in the kitchen.
Sandy, any films?
I'd quite like to play Eliza Doolittle in My Fair Lady, but I would have Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone as the professor, so that you end up speaking worse at the end. I think it'd be quite good. Actually, because, of course, remakes with other people in aren't always successful. I mean, I think you know the story about Piers Zador played Anne Frank, which is a very bizarre idea. Piers Zador is a very sexy lady, and she was in the stage version of Anne Frank, and apparently it was very, very bad. And what happened was that the curtain went up, and there was a sound of Nazi stormtroopers, and somebody at the back of the audience shouted, "She's in the attic!"
Alistair.
I'd like to remake or be in Way Out West, the Laurel and Hardy film, and I'd like to play the guy who owns the bar. They go to the little inn there, the balding one, for no apparent reason. But I'd like to play that part. The one who does a strange thing when he gets annoyed, so I just love to go. I'd love to do that.
Do it again then, if you like.
I'd also, if I was remaking a film, I think I'd love to get a Bogart film, like Casablanca, say, because Bogart had that lip, and there's only one other person in history who's had that lip, and I think we know who it is. It's Mr. Major. And I think he should play the Bogart role in Casablanca and go around saying, "He's looking at you, Norma."
Joe?
I'd like to be in a remake of that film Castaway with Oliver Reed, you know. And I play the Oliver Reed part in that. And, I get Macaulay Culkin to play the Amanda Donohoe part. And when he started whining, as he inevitably would, I just eat him.
All right, thank you very much, panel. And thank you for your question. Now, another celebrity question, and we are delighted indeed to welcome the quiet man of racing. Would you please welcome Mr. John McCurrick? John, thanks for coming in. What's your question, please, in gestures less than 200, please?
Well, is there any surefire winner that you know of? Dead cert, cannot get beat, will win.
Right, OK. I think we got that, John, thanks. All right. Any such thing as a surefire bet? Sandy?
If you buy a packet of Smarties, it's absolutely guaranteed that the letter on the lid won't be your initial. Also, any man who says to you at a party, "I heard a really funny thing the other day," didn't. And I would wager a tenner that Nanette Newman never did all that washing up.
Alistair?
I just think it's a fairly surefire thing that the next series after film 93 for Barry Norman will probably be called film 94.
Joe?
Hello, John. I would imagine it's a pretty surefire bet that you won't be asked to join the Chippendales this year.
Me and you both.
Me and you both. He's coming back at me. Good.
Well, I like girls with meat on them, you see, so you're in with a chance.
Oh, cheers. Well, actually, I normally keep my weight up, so a 20 like you won't fancy me. It's the John and Joe show. It's Beauty and the Beast, because you are looking gorgeous tonight, mate. Surefire bet.
Yes,
Let me get on to this. That no one will ever eat three shredded wheat because they taste like shite. And that 99% of Channel 4 viewers probably think that all this is complete bollocks.
It's quite a hard act to follow,
Yeah.
Well,
you're going to have to, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I think it's a surefire bet that John McCreary will never present the clothes show.
At a fee, you can have the name of my clothier.
I made a mistake bringing you back in. It's my own fault. I think it's a pretty surefire bet that you'll see two different blokes starting the Grand National next year. I think that'll be there. And I think another surefire bet is that if you christened your child Arse, he'd get quite a hard time at school.
Thank you very much, panel. John, apart from Sarah Ferguson, are there any surefire things at all?
Well, I reckon it's odds on many bookmakers would love to lay a frisky filly like Joe.
All right, John, thank you very much, and goodbye. We have a letter now from a lady called Alessandra De Clara from Stoke. Yeah. And she writes, there's an increasing number of celebrities now advertising on our screens. I would therefore like to ask the panellists what product they would like to advertise or do a voiceover for, Joe.
Well, I don't do adverts, actually, and I wouldn't like to advertise anything, but if I had to, I'd like to be more realistic, like, for example, the Flake adverts. I just go on and go, who's ever seen a penis that big? I haven't. And I'd like to... I think all this sort of... this euphemistic behaviour in adverts, you know, toilet rolls, all this sort of little doggies, just go on and say it wipes your bum better than a sock does. One thing I would actually, there's a fantastic hair product called Pump and Spray, and I wouldn't advertise that. There is, though. I wouldn't advertise that as a hair product. I'd advertise it as the ultimate one-night stand. After which, of course, you could wash and go. Ha ha.
Sandi.
I quite like to advertise sanitary towels because apparently you can go skydiving and be completely protected, which I think is really...
Alistair.
Well, Alessandra is quite right. We do have lots of celebrities. I mean, you can't turn on the TV without hearing Hugh Laurie saying, "The little G's and likes to get out." And...
if you watch BBC, you can.
Yeah, that's very true. And John Peel, of course, has been doing a few as well. John Peel did one for Vimta, did one for Ganderel Sugar, and his latest for Purcell, of course, John Peel. But I would like to do one as Julian Clary, because I think Julian Clary would get sexual innuendo into any voiceover he did. He really would. So you'd have things like, Campbell's cream of mushroom soup. It's a bit like sperm, really, isn't it?
I can see a sort of theme emerging for tonight's show, really.
It's bad enough thinking about John and Joe doing it, really. Sorry.
It's all right, we won't.
Oh, don't worry.
Anyway, Tone, back to the question.
Well, I'd quite like to play Papa in the Renault ad. Just because, you know, I can't handle big scripts, you know, and I think I could cope with Nicole. Probably
I could be Nicole, then.
You could be Nicole. You could be Nicola, and I'd say, "Where have you been in my bloody car?" But I quite like to do the gas ones as well, those gas ones, but I can't get a flame to come out of my finger. If I'm quick enough with the matches, I can get one to come out of somewhere else, but that's not the sort of gas you want to be advertising.
No, all right. Thank you very much for those answers, panel. Right, that's all we've got time for, I'm afraid, but to end by way of saying goodbye, I'm now going to ask the panel to tell us one fact each that is palpably untrue.
A finger of fudge is just enough.
Terry Christian is like a former winner of Mastermind.
Manchester, Olympic City.
That Barry, who drinks in my local pub, isn't a boring git.
Thank you very much, panel, and thanks so much from me. Good night.